All right. Okay, I think we can call the meeting to order. Right? Yeah. So this is the Board of Education meeting of January 26th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting. We are recording this meeting. Oh, we do need to begin that recording. And it is fully virtual. I'm just going to ask that all participants mute yourselves to prevent any meeting interference. And you can, if you're on the phone, you can unmute using the *6. I also ask that everyone wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking so that people listening on the phone are able to identify the person talking. And we will start with the pledge, and I will share a flag so that we can say the pledge. If you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and then hold on. Just ask Mr. D'Elia if he'll share our commitment to the community pledge.
I'd be honored. As citizens of our community, we will conduct ourselves in accordance with Newtown's core character attributes as displayed in our character tree. We will be responsible for our actions and show respect for each other. We will interact peacefully, productively, and politely. We will be trustworthy and honest and show compassion toward others. Newtown's continued success is contingent upon our ability to persevere, to follow through with our commitments, and to stay focused on the greater good.
Great, thank you. All right, so that brings us, we have a almost purely budget agenda this evening. So we'll start off with the technology budget, and I see Ms. Amadeo here to share her thoughts on the technology budget. I don't know if you have a summary you'd like to give us.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to share my thoughts about the past year with all of you. 2020 will be remembered for many things. It's the year of the pandemic, the year of distance learning, and as the tech department refers to it, the year of counting Chromebooks. I want to start by recognizing the efforts of my department. In the spring, we reacted to the immediate need to move instruction and learning to the home. Devices were taken off carts, they had to be tested, and very importantly, cleaned and packaged for handout to ensure every learner had a device to use. My department team became support not only for staff and students, but parents too, solving issues not only in the known environment of our schools, but also in the unknown environment of the individual homes. Working with users at all levels of knowledge and comfort every day brought a new challenge. And every day, my team took each challenge one by one and worked to solve them. Since my first day at Newtown, the success of the technology department has always been as a result of the dedicated collaborative efforts of each of its members, working together to meet the same goal, and through all this, they have not wavered in their commitment. Changes were not only needed in where our hardware was used, but also in Power School and how we recorded grades and tracked attendance. Our grading setup needed to fairly account for student efforts in this new model of learning. We worked with administration to eliminate final exams and devise and adjust grade scales. In addition, attendance tracking had to be modified to allow for tracking attendance on days of distance learning. Later in the fall, we would see that these efforts were extended to meet state requirements for weekly reports on remote learning. With no signs of a quick recovery from the pandemic, administrators and educators worked hard to devise a distance learning plan to meet the needs of the students, which now more than ever depended on technology to deliver it. As we prepared for the beginning of the 2020-2021, with the pandemic showing its effects across the world, we, like all other districts, struggled to obtain devices needed by our teaching and our students. Whereas the district was moving to a one-to-one environment with Chromebooks for grades 2 and up, what was learned from remote learning and teaching in the spring changed the choice of device for K and 1 to the Chromebook as well. So we started counting Chromebooks to look at ways to best use the inventory remaining in the buildings. The plans for the fall would bring staff back to support a hybrid model. So additionally, we needed cameras, and so did every other district. We needed microphones, and so did every other district. We needed Chromebooks, and so did every other district. We found ways to leverage and repurpose the equipment we had. We worked closely with Mrs. Uberti and Mr. Picaro to ensure that we came up with solutions that work for the classroom teacher. They may not have been everyone's idea of the perfect, but they worked. All teaching stations now needed a webcam and mic to deliver the curriculum. So document cameras became webcams, and we searched vendors to find a supply of webcams for those without. Time was invested in testing microphones with good pickup for the space of a classroom. The microphone that we chose was back ordered, so we substituted another while we waited. Projectors were used to extend screens, providing the viewing remote learners on the desktop monitor while sharing instructional content on the projected screen. Computers removed from elementary labs in the high school LMC became dedicated teacher stations for high school staff to eliminate the effort and time required to set up their laptop each time they entered a classroom to teach. We extended our wireless network to the community center to support the district's efforts to support staff with school-age students who needed a place to learn while mom or dad taught. This was done working with the town, replacing some of their access points with our own, and utilizing the school's bandwidth as to not overburden the town's network. But where were the Chromebooks? The devices distributed staff and students in the spring remained with them. If they needed them then, they would need them as we opened in the fall. So we counted our Chromebooks, those we still had, those that went home, those we now needed to provide access down to kindergarten and up through 9th grade. We had placed our orders early on, so the vendor was called and called again. The loading dock was visited frequently, but still, where were the Chromebooks? School opened and we still had no Chromebooks. It wasn't until end of September that we found a vendor with an inventory of Chromebooks. We had to decide quickly. The week earlier, we thought we had found some, but when we called back to get a quote, they were gone, snatched by another district eager to fill their need. It felt like we struck gold when we found this quantity. The decision was made to purchase these for Reed and with the inventory that we reclaimed from Reed down to the elementary schools. So we counted Chromebooks. What was in the building, what was on record as loaned to students and returned, and what was in the to be repaired pile. Let's not forget that we had to subtract those that staff had been assigned, and with remote learning continuing, there was still a need for more staff Chromebooks. K-6 was close, but not yet one-to-one. So we kept looking for Chromebooks. But where was our original order? Again, we called the vendor and we called again. We went to the loading dock, we visited frequently, but where were the Chromebooks? A couple of weeks later, we found another vendor with an inventory. We quickly decided to make a purchase and this time outfit the middle school. So we counted our Chromebooks. What was in the building, what was on record as loaned to students in return, and what was now in the to be repaired pile. And this time we were able to complete the elementary schools and provide students in K-8 one-to-one access to Chromebooks. But our Chromebook counting wasn't over. We still had a need at the high school. Finally, those Chromebooks from the original orders have come in. We are keeping what we need and working with the vendor to return the rest in hopes that some other district that is wondering where are the Chromebooks may find them and meet the needs of their students. For the Newtown Technology Department, 2020 will now and forever be the year we counted the Chromebooks. And that was my synopsis of the efforts of the Technology Department over the course of the past year.
Thank you. I knew there was more to this budget book than just these lines. Thank you. That is so important. I'm glad you shared all that with us because I know we hear about it in bits and pieces, but as one grand tour of what's going on. That's very helpful for us to hear that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for counting all the Chromebook. I know, yeah, I mean, it's been amazing how much work has gone into the technology to make this year work. So beyond the budget book, we appreciate all that has gone into that. I know it's been challenging. So would you like to move to questions from board members? Is that
Yes, that would be fine.
okay? Does anybody have questions or, yeah, Mr. Cruson?
I got part of a document we received just before this had a breakdown of the expense for equipment and where how the 444,000 was broken down between student books and staff laptops and Verkada and all that stuff. The expense, the cost for staff laptops, is that Chromebooks for staff? Is that a different type of device for staff? What is that line item for?
Right now, it would be a one-to-one replacement for the existing laptops that the high school staff teachers have and a few other support staff throughout the district. And those are regular Windows 10 laptops.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions? Any more? No? All right. It's an easy, I want to say an easy year. It's an easy budget meeting. Hasn't been an easy year. So I will just note that in this budget, and I know all board members are noticing this, but the budget book shows a 2.05% increase in the technology budget, but the budget is actually down 5.41% because if you consider the 115,000 which came from the capital non-recurring fund last year, that's that needs to be considered. So I just wanted to point that out. All right. Any other board member questions before we move on? All right, Mr. D'Elia.
I was just wondering, Carm, first of all, thank you for everything you've done, and I appreciate it. I was wondering if you would think that we should put some sort of a, I don't know, I don't know how to say this. In case of an emergency, I don't want to call it a contingency account because I don't want to just put money away for the sake of putting money away. But in the event that we need something, do you think that should be budgeted for? Is that something that you ran into every year? I was just wondering if you could speak to that, you know, where you needed something and you didn't have the funds for it.
I think that all in all, the technology, we've been able to leverage the dollars provided to the technology budget to meet the needs of the district fairly well. This was an extraordinary year. We had a demand for devices that we never saw before. And the plan that we had to move to that one-to-one accelerated at a rate that was beyond anything we imagined, you know, and it posed a lot of challenges to us. But all through this, the funding was always found to make it happen. And I think in the past, you know, we're still leveraging universal services funding and some grants have been awarded to us and so forth. So I think that with the dollars afforded, we're really in a pretty good position.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Mr. D'Elia?
Yeah, and then Karma, thank you for that answer. I think that's the same answer you gave me last year too. So, and I just always ask that question. But I was also wondering, with all the extra devices, is the infrastructure, is that properly funded, the infrastructure in the schools?
So when we were preparing to go into this year, we did revisit. I actually worked with a team in the state of Connecticut's CEN, and we looked at the bandwidth needs of the district as it would be needed based on the number of device increases in the district. And we were able to increase our bandwidth, and that's accounted for in going into the next year. So we added in the bandwidth area, and every year since the inception of the Universal Services Fund, we've actually leveraged the dollars available there to help us fund our internet connections. And over the past 5 years, when they changed the program, we've used it to fund networking upgrades. So we've been consistently looking at switches in the closets and access points and adding. We did have to add a few additional access points this year, but we were able to do that at a relatively reasonable price point. So I think we're in a good position.
Thank you very much. And best of luck.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We'll move on to, thank you, Ms. Amadeo, for sharing all that.
Thank
Being
you.
here with us. And we'll move on to continuing education. So we have Jen Arnold here. Hi.
Good evening.
Do you have a summary you would like to share with us, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having me. This is my first budget workshop with you. And so I just want to introduce myself as the Director of Newtown Adult and Continuing Education. I'm very excited to share and highlight some of the great benefits adult ed has to offer, and I'll try to keep it brief. Newtown Continuing Education really does some amazing work to help foster social and emotional well-being, as well as to nurture and cultivate learning for students and adults in our community. We are a versatile learning hub, providing opportunities and enrichment in academics. Our learning hub is here for you from the early age of 5 and on, truly throughout a lifetime. For the young students in K through 12, we offer the summer school program, which provides academic support or remedial credit opportunities. It interjects summer learning loss and truly fits the mission of our district to provide for more individualized and personalized attention and to help bridge learning gaps between students. Education is not a one-size-fits-all, as we've all learned. We understand that, and that's why we provide more intimate, personalized group or individualized learning opportunities. We give students the benefit of building on their skills while receiving the highest quality of education and consistency, as most of our certified staff is from our very own district and familiar with our students, district standards, and our mission as a whole. We are able to provide these personalized opportunities by creating student profiles unique to each student and preparing the teacher by giving them this information for a student enrolled in a K through 6 support program. This year, we are super excited to add on the half-day summer school programs. I would like to highlight our Summer Splash Academy. The Summer Splash Academy invites students exiting K through 6 who are attending a half-day program to splash into aquatics and art following their academic support session and to enjoy the community center for the second portion of their day. Through this opportunity, we're able to continue to provide a safe environment that nurtures social and emotional well-being, which is more important than ever. It cultivates deeper learning through enrichment, as well as to give students a summer camp-like experience, adding a positive connotation to summer school, while providing more flexibility for our families who find the noon pickup as a burden or unattainable, and may otherwise enroll their student in another day camp out of the need for flexibility, resulting in a lost opportunity for needed academic support for their student out of the need. We've all been there as parents. These choices are not easy, and that is why we hope that the program will offer flexibility for families that need a flexible choice for their children. Additionally, we have other specialty camps like the Outdoor Explorers, a hands-on science camp experience, and our longest running, most popular unique camp, the SMART program. The camp provides students with the opportunity to explore the arts that they may otherwise not be able to explore during the course of their academic year. Whether it is play or music, students can learn, create, and truly dig into their inner artists in a safe and nurturing environment. The SMART Camp is also an amazing opportunity because we provide our high school students with the opportunity to mentor the younger ones through our internship program, which is truly peer mentoring and learning at its finest. while teaching our older high school students about leadership, responsibility, and commitment, as it is a job for many their first. In addition to the traditional K-12 summer school programs and camps I highlighted, one of our biggest commitments to our community is our state mandated programs like the GED, CDP, ABE, and ESL courses for adults, and part of the reason we exist. As part of the responsibility and commitment to the residents over the age of 17 who wish to obtain their secondary education and/or diploma, we participate in a cost sharing program which allows us to greatly reduce the financial burden on our district and to the taxpayer while delivering the mandated programs for our residents. Last, but just as important, I would like to highlight the other unique opportunity that we provide residents: the opportunity to indulge in recreational, social, and skill building activities as a community. Truly very important during these unprecedented times. Running a fall and spring program, we offer courses and charge a small tuition to adults. We strive to keep this tuition rate affordable, and our instructors are trustworthy and professional individuals from our very own town and from around surrounding areas. It's important to continue learning, growing, and building on our skills in our lifetime, and for adults, that can seem costly or unattainable. But through our adult ed program, we offer budget-friendly and/or free courses in computer skills, retirement planning, mind and body. We recently added canning classes and have a resume building company coming in to help students with their resumes. We are building and adding onto our offerings while pivoting with the times. As you know, they've been very unprecedented. And so we have had to create some virtual opportunities, but luckily we were able to quickly pivot and still provide the community with these benefits. We seek to help students and adults further their education and skills. We truly are a versatile learning hub. And while I can go on about other opportunities and newer ventures, I promised I would keep it brief. So I just wanted to highlight those. And I also wanted to quickly just go over what we did during the pandemic to help bring learning to the classroom. We provided the summer experience this summer. Though small and not typically what is offered, we were still able to invite students back into the classrooms with the guidance and assistance from the state, as well as Assistant Superintendent Ann Uberti. Thank you for your help. We were able to bring students safely back into their environment. They were eager to learn. We were able to really open up the school again. And it was one of the first times that students were able to come in and feel safe in another environment but their own home. And so we were really honored to bring that program this summer and expect that this summer will go even better and are looking forward to offering a full program. More than ever, coronavirus has reshaped the meaning of summer school, and we really hope that this summer students and parents will take advantage of the opportunity to come back into the school safely if they haven't already, and to continue learning and just building on their skills. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do any board members have questions about continuing education? Yes, Ms. Zukowski.
Yeah, so I'm somewhat new to this. It sounds like a very rich set of programs you have there. Now, some of them you charge for, like adult education and the likes, but the summer experience and the secondary education summer schools, those are paid by the taxpayer. I'm worried because we've got more students who may need help catching up, and this might be one of the venues to do it. Is it true that there is no fee for the support, which is related to the classrooms?
There is a fee for the support, and we charge, we try to keep it, feasible. It's a 4-week program typically at that age level. And while we charge a fee, we do try to keep it reasonable. Some of our items are budgeted, but we do have other expenses that we pay out of the tuition that we receive, as far as, managing the administrative part of it, and being able to provide some supplies and being able to provide, books and resources for the students during their summer program. So while the budgeted item is for the salaries of the teachers, we use money from that tuition to, provide the paper and pens and supplies that the students need during their summer school time. So while we, enrollment is hard to forecast, And so we didn't want to over forecast that. So we kept it within, its typical range, just with it being such an unprecedented summer. We do anticipate that students will be, needing the program and that additional support that they may, look for the program when they haven't in the past. But we are fully prepared to, staff and have those students, in our classroom if need be.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that, Ms. Sukowski? Just so I think I don't know if this is what you were getting at, but the recovery credits that students may need if they fail classes in high school, or they've somehow been unable to take courses in high school. Is that, and maybe Dr. Rodriguez, you can answer this, or Ms. Uberti, but is this the summer school program in which students would be making up those course credits?
So our summer program that is actually budgeted is the K-6 program. So our middle school and high school programs are not typically budgeted for, and those funds are collected through tuition. All the salaries are paid through the tuition, and we give those programs. So we will continue to give those programs, and we are fully prepared to actually provide those programs in person this summer, as well as virtually for those students still learning. But yes, our remedial programs will still be available, and through the enrollment is how we will pay our salaries, and typically that's how it's done. And we've had a successful summer. Luckily, we have such great staff that it's not many students that need that. We do also try to support them throughout the school year. We do also have the virtual high school option, the VHS learning option. So that's also another option for students who may need that remedial credit either during the school year once they know they've failed. I actually have teachers and guidance reaching out to me now trying to place those students in either, seniors looking to walk. So those seniors are taking those courses, this spring semester through the virtual high school. And then this summer, we'll have like those rising seniors or those sophomores that are looking to, get some credits or make up some credits. They'll be able to take advantage of the summer program in person or virtually.
Yeah, I think the question comes from the place that we recently had a report of how many students are failing courses in the high school this year, and as opposed to previous years, this is a very unusual year. So that, I think that's where my question is coming from, and probably Ms. Sukowski's as well.
So if I could just jump in, because we have been discussing that, and I spoke to Kim Longabuco about that. It is a challenge to predict because historically speaking, there were not a lot of students who needed credit recovery at the high school. The actual number was relatively small. And unfortunately, it's hard to know until the very end which students are going to be impacted. So what we did last year was we were in close contact with Kim and monitored that. And we will continue to do so this year. The summer support that was offered through Jen's program was supplemented through funds from my office last year. We did provide tutoring to a number of students who had incompletes, who needed, I would describe it as a guardian to kind of carry them over the finish line, an adult that they could be in contact with, not so much a teacher of the subject matter, but a teacher from the high school who kind of coached them to finish the material that they had not finished. Again, it's a hard thing to know where we'll be, especially if students are all in spite of the somewhat grim failure numbers that you saw. Those numbers may not necessarily reflect students who will fail for the year. So it's something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. And if need be, there will have to be additional funds that are budgeted right now in my budget that will shift, because that is the biggest priority, is to ensuring those students pass, particularly at the high school level. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. that is the concern, is do we have the funds planned for what might come along? Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from board members? Yeah, Mr. Delia.
That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. I was curious, where are the revenue numbers? Are they, is that something that we're supposed to look at, or is that somewhere, maybe someone else can tell me, because we spoke of revenue numbers, money coming in being used. Is that I don't know how that works, I guess. I'm just asking if you could explain that to me, Ms. Arnold.
Sure. So the revenue, again, from these programs that are budgeted, they go towards supplies, they go towards, making up the difference for whatever we may need in those classrooms during the summer school program. They also go towards the administrative staff. Some of that is not budgeted. So, we have to pay for those hours and those salaries. So that's where that comes in, is from that revenue that's collected from these tuition that is charged.
Yeah, and can I just add, the reason you don't see that is because the continuing ed department does have a separate fund.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Thank you.
The revenue runs through that fund, as does the expenses.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Nope. Oh, Mr. Delia?
I just was wondering if the parents of the younger students are well aware of what you do, the wonderful work you do, and maybe we can promote that, because I know a lot of parents are concerned about their children falling behind, and the services you provide to the young students is invaluable. And I was wondering if as a board there's anything we can do to maybe promote that through maybe a communication or something of that nature.
That would be great. I mean, I feel like the more people know, the better. We do also send out our brochure, and so we'll begin marketing that actually fairly quickly. Within the next 2 weeks, I hope to have that mailed to every single zip code in Newtown, the 06482 and 06470. And additionally, I will be sending out communication through, I hope, Naviance, which is a great tool that can go out to parents and students. Obviously, for the younger ones, we would send it to the parents. And then we also send it out through Kathy June. She has a email system that works great. And then we also meet with the principals, and we kind of let them know about our program so that they can advocate, and bring that information to the parent and to students, during their conferences for parent-teacher conferences in March. And so when they're making their recommendations, they can kind of speak to the programs that we offer and why they would be of a great support for our students. So I am working on our Facebook page, the Newtown Continuing Education Facebook page, which has, the information, and I try to reach out and through various social media sites. So I do try to market the program, and I am really working on that. We also opened up an online registration system this year, which is amazing because I saw that, we also offer the driver's ed and SAT program to our high school students, which, is not a budgeted item. We, again, that's something that is like revenue driven, and tuition that's charged pays for everything. But, the way we market that is also to parents, and, we try to really get the word out there. So if you guys would like to send something out, I can put something together. That would be great. Just because, any support we can get is great for our students.
Thank you very much. I'm very impressed with your response.
Thank you.
I think that you might become busier than you suspect.
I hope so.
Keep up the wonderful work, and thank you again. That was a wonderful
you.
presentation, and you're doing wonderful things for the children and young adults of our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, any other board member questions? Comments? All right, well, thank you, Ms. Arnold, for sharing
Thank you.
all that good information. That was very helpful. We
Thank you.
appreciate your being here with us.
Thank you.
All right, so that'll bring us to our plant budget. Um, Mr. Gerber, are you presenting that, or who
Yes.
shall I turn to?
No, that'll be me. And I do have a slide deck that I can share.
Oh, let me give you, there you go. You should be able to do it now.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So before I jump into the meat of the presentation, I do want to give some of the same sentiments that Carmela expressed about her team with our custodian and maintenance team. I think these guys have done a tremendous job for the district, for the students, for the families, throughout this whole year, especially now more than ever with the pandemic. These guys, this pandemic's been around about a year now. And these guys have dealt with a number of different changes, sometimes by the day, by the hour, and have never said no. They have been all in since day one. They work tremendously together as a team, a lot of cooperation, collaboration, sharing of ideas. And really that has helped us pull through this and get us, into the school year to start and get us through the school year to where we're at today. Really, doing a great job with keeping up with the cleaning. You look at Newtown High early in the year, in addition to using the 2 cafeterias, we had 4 tents on the property. So we essentially had 6 cafeterias to cover. And that same thing happened at a number of other schools. The middle school turned their gym into a cafeteria. Same thing with a number of elementary schools. They utilized larger spaces if they had limited cafeteria space. And really, our guys have just done a tremendous job keeping up with the day-to-day operations, both with the custodial work plus the maintenance activities. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of that group and proud of the work that they do for the town. And so now getting into the presentation. So you see the request that we're looking for the upcoming year is just a shade under $8 million. And overall, it's an increase of roughly 275,000, which represents a 3.6% increase over the previous year. Now, I will say that is somewhat skewed because we did have, similar to Carm, we did have some shuffling around with the improvement, the building projects line item that was cut by the town and then backfilled with their non-recurring account. So that was a $335,000 cut last year that on the budget year to year shows as last year as a 0. So it's a little skewed, but nevertheless, it's an increase compared to last year. And I've highlighted some of the key areas where there are some pluses and minuses. So, some of the pluses, salaries, naturally, contracted services and plant supplies. And then there's some big drops in energy and professional services. So some of the things that we're doing, I have a first bullet here of continuous improvement. And I think that's just, as I was opening up with, just the commitment that the guys have and really the collaboration and working together, that nobody just kind of shows up and goes through the routine day to day. There's always something new. There's always something different, especially now with the pandemic. There's been a lot of changes, and especially recently with, CDC guidelines, changing quarantine rules and things like that. So our guys have just really done a great job keeping up with all that and really not missing a beat. One thing that we started last March was a monthly cleaning inspection, and that's being done by Paul Devine. He's our assistant facilities director. And 2 things feed into that. One is we developed a grading system that's equitable across all the schools. And the other piece is a deficiency list. So Mr. Devine goes around to each of the schools. He walks around. Nobody knows when. It's not a scheduled thing. He will come 5 o'clock in the morning. He'll come 5 o'clock at night. He'll come in the middle of the day. So it's very much a surprise visit. And he goes around, he checks classrooms, he checks bathrooms, the kitchen, the caf, closets that people don't even know about sometimes. He opens up every door. He takes a list. He notes things that he sees that could be improved, and sometimes they're very minor things. Sometimes they're big things. So no matter how big or small, they all get noted on a deficiency list, and he has a grading system that assigns pluses and minuses and develops a score on a 100-point basis. And I'm proud to say when we first started this, we had some buildings in the mid 80s, low 80s. The last go around that he did, we had every school was over 90. So I think it shows that the guys care, that they're actually embracing this this inspection. There's actually somewhat of a competition between some of the schools where they want to know how their colleagues doing at another building and see if they can, if they're a few points behind, how do they catch up? If they're ahead, how do they stay ahead? So it's really, I think it's really done an excellent job of raising the bar across the district, and really it's a testament to the guys, because they're the ones that make it happen. A lot of them could have, they could just get the list and crumple it up and throw it away, but they do take the list and really work on identifying everything and making sure that they could, cross off as many as they can before the next go round. And I'll speak to the maintenance department. They've taken on more duties as well. We've worked to try to incorporate smaller projects and running those in-house when we can. So, I spoke to some of those over the summer, such as the security desk at the high school, the shed at the high school, where the security guards sit at the driveway. Recently, we had the maintenance guys replace all the ceilings in the hallways at Middlegate. That saved us probably about $7,000 versus sending it out to a contractor. They do painting, they do other light carpentry. They really have a lot of capabilities, and we're just starting to really scratch the surface of what these guys could do and what they can offer. So I think as we continue on, it's gonna lead to hopefully some cost savings, and it also makes these guys feel good. They take a lot of pride in the work they do, and certainly custodians and building principals have noticed that there's been a lot of effort put forth to keep up with things in terms of maintenance. And I have this graphic at the bottom of the slide, which this is more applicable to a manufacturing plant, but nevertheless, in terms of facilities and maintenance, it's something that we could use as a tool. And you see on the far left there, you've got a performance measure, and you've got different steps. You've got reactive, planned, predictive, reliability, and enterprise. So I would say, in my experience, a lot of municipalities and probably school districts fall into that reactive category, where they're either cash strapped, or they don't have the manpower or the expertise, and they kind of just wait for things to break and then go fix it, which really isn't the best way to operate. It just leads to bigger expenses and a lot of headaches, and smaller fixes that get overlooked eventually become larger items that lead to more expense later on. So I think what we've done is, in this past year, is really try to crawl out of that. And I think we're kind of in this more so into this planned bucket, where you see the planned bucket is labeled fix it before it fails. So a lot of that, in terms of, say, HVAC, is your preventative maintenance, your filter changes, your your seasonal checks before you turn on the air conditioning, before you turn on the heat, and certainly having maintenance contracts in place for a lot of stuff. We have HVAC contracts in place for all the schools. We have contracts for our elevators, our generators, our heating system. So that plays a big part into it. We're able to do the routine maintenance and catch a lot of things before they become problems. And then, eventually we'd like to, work our way up to the predictive and the reliability, where you're almost, really catching things before they even show themselves to be a problem. And ultimately that would be, that would be the place we can land, which would ultimately save us some money and a lot of headaches where we don't have to fix a lot of big ticket things. Hopefully, we can keep things manageable where it's more predictable from a cost perspective and a time perspective. And just some highlights on our staffing. So really no staffing changes. We have 50 custodians across the 7 buildings. We have 5 maintenance guys, and they have a contractual 2.2% wage increase, which goes through June of 2023. So we're about midway into that. One thing that has happened over the past few months is we have brought on 4 new custodians. We did have a number of, we had a couple custodians leave via retirement and a couple that left on their own to go seek employment elsewhere. So we've backfilled those, and we have found very competent people to perform those jobs. And this is something that our district courier, Dennis Stratford, really contributed on. Is he located a local vendor that is able to repair our custodian equipment, which has been a sore spot for a number of years. We used to rely on a vendor who was out of state, who would have to come pick up the machine, take it away, and just them taking it away is usually a minimum 2 weeks, and that's to not even know what they're going to find, just to diagnose it. So we're using a gentleman that's in Sandy Hook. We call him. Most of the time he comes the same day. If not, he's there the next day. Many times he's able to diagnose the problem on the spot. Sometimes it's maybe a wire's loose or a bad button or something. But many times he's able to do a quick diagnosis and give us a cost. And with his shop being so close, he can take the equipment pretty much the same day and usually have it back to us within a couple of days or a week. So it's really helped our productivity and our efficiency. And it's also saved us some money because he's very fair and very reasonable. He doesn't try to upsell us on anything that we don't need. He's very matter of fact and tells us exactly what the problem is, gives us options on what we could do to fix it. And, if the item can be fixed versus, should we fix it now and maybe plan for something, in a year or 2 years. So he gives us a lot of comfort in this aspect. So I think this has been a home run for us. And here are some highlights on energy. So as we've been talking about, I know at our facilities committee, the town has a virtual net metering program, which is fully underway now. And that is benefiting all of the school electric accounts. So that's really thanks to Fred Hurley and his efforts on that. He's led that charge for the last probably couple of years to get that from a concept on paper to where it is now, where it's actually producing electricity and cost savings for the district and the town. This is the next bullet, the Eversource Energy Profiler. That's a new thing that we've registered for, and basically this gives us a deeper dive into our energy usage. It covers us at 5 schools. 2 schools that we can't get on, Middlegate and Hawley. Those are simply because they don't draw enough electricity to send the data that this program uses. So this allows us to get our interval data, which in terms of electricity is pulled every 15 minutes. And what it's able to do is create a lot of data and a lot of graphs so that we can track kilowatt hour usage, peak demand, things like that. It'll give us load profiles so we can maybe pinpoint areas of concern or area, if we could take a load profile, and if we see certain things such as big demands at night or overnight that shouldn't be there, it can lead us to find and uncover problems that may go unnoticed. And furthermore, it's going to feed into Fred Hurley's looking at a program for demand response. So being able to have a graph of our load profile and a lot of data will feed into his efforts there to try to curtail the demand and bring that down at some of the larger consumers like Newtown High. And again, we're working with the town board, so Sustainable Energy Committee. I meet with them once a month, and they talk over things that are going on in town. They talk about things that we could be doing at the schools, and it's a very collaborative group, very carefree. There's a lot of joking around and good humor, but a good bunch of people with good intentions, and they helped us. They were the ones that gave us a suggestion for a contractor for the head of metal lighting, and they helped us with that. And just again, just a good group of people who have our best interests in mind. And another thing that we've been working on recently is active auditing of our BMS. So we have a district-wide BMS that's tied into all 7 of the buildings, which we can check all of the temperatures and heating systems and air conditioning systems and all the equipment. So myself, Jeff Fell, some of the custodians who are computer savvy, we go through that every so often, and we'll look for anomalies. Could be a temperature that's way out of whack, or an alarm that nobody's acknowledged, or maybe some other kind of error, pump's not working, or VFD that's not working the way it should be. So we've been doing a lot of that to try to catch some of these bugs that could be leading to a classroom that's too cold, too hot, and ultimately that feeds into help saving us on our energy bill. And here's some highlights for contracted services. So we're continuing to use purchasing networks for a lot of our maintenance contracts, whether it's generators, pest control, HVAC, you name it. There's a lot of powerful purchasing groups out there that we are taking advantage of, that have volume pricing, that basically helps us, bypass bidding process and a lot of unnecessary paperwork for stuff that's already been done. Some other things, our plumber who we hired last year in October of 2019, he went and got his backflow certification through the state of Connecticut. So that's a contracted service that is still going to be on the books, but it's going to be in a reduced capacity because he's probably doing about 50% of them now. There are a couple buildings that are on the town of Newtown water supply that they still want to do that themselves. And also Aquarian, the larger water utility, they don't want to wholesale just give it up either. They do spot check every once in a while just to keep them honest. But certainly having this certification now, it helps streamline things. It helps, he's able to check things on a more regular basis rather than waiting for the water company to come out on their annual inspection. Another thing we picked up last summer was we worked to do all of our emergency lighting tests in-house, and that was done by our electrician Archie. He went through all 7 of the buildings and commissioned and made sure that all of the emergency lighting systems work. So in a number of the schools, we have generators that back up the lights, but in some of the other ones, we have battery packs in the emergency lights in the hallway. So those need to be checked for a 90-minute test to make sure that the battery is good. So he went through and did all that and created an efficiency list, and subsequently went back and replaced all of the batteries that he found could not meet that 90 minutes. So that's usually a biggie for the fire marshal that they look for in August before school's going to open. So that was something we felt was better handled in-house with our own people. And some of the additions that are leading to the cost increases, we're figuring on keeping the MERV 13 filters that we brought on board this past summer and for this year for the COVID to provide a much more efficient or much more finer capture of particles. So we're anticipating to continue that. We have some stage inspections that are needed at Newtown High, and we need to revisit our parking lot line striping. So this was something we eliminated last year because it was not needed. And this is typically an item that's going to alternate every other year. So it's coming back this year. And then on the professional service side, it's just we have some savings because we have fewer underground tanks to manage. We're down to basically 2 tanks. We have a tank at Reed, and we have a tank at Head of Meadow. And with that, I will entertain any discussion or questions.
All right, do we have any board member questions? And you can speak up because I can't see you right now. Ms. Zukowski?
Yeah, I have a question about monitoring air quality. So do you have money in there for periodic monitoring of air quality and any subsequent maintenance that might result from it?
Yeah, so we have a couple things. So we do carry money in our professional services line, and that covers our underground tank maintenance. It covers our asbestos inspections, and it covers also monies for air quality testing if needed. And to supplement that, we do have our own in-house devices. So I have a number of tools. I have some handheld meters, so we can walk through and do more active air quality tests, kind of on demand, so to speak, where we have devices that could check temperature, humidity, CO2 level, carbon monoxide levels. So those are some nice little tools that we have, and we could set those up in classrooms, hallways. They have data logging capability, so we can pull data from that. And on our BMS, we have a couple buildings have some advanced capability. So at Sandy Hook, they have a CO2 demand management built into the BMS, and that covers all of the air handling systems, and that will modulate the amount of outdoor air that's needed based on the levels in the building. And at Newtown High, they have that same capability in the F wing with the newer equipment that's there, where they're able to keep the CO2 levels in check.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? From board members? Ms. Zukowski, did you have another one?
Yeah. So on the plant 5-year plan for building and maintenance, how is that overall budget decided? And is it, for example, is it based on available funds or long-term upkeep or other? And if it's based on available funds, how do you prioritize what's done in each year?
So it's a bit of both. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The funding is obvious, is clearly the driving factor. And in a perfect world, you guys would give me an endless supply of money, and we could chip away at everything. But that that's not realistic. So certainly trying to fit within a budget is a priority. But at the same time, there are things that we will pick up through the year. And we try to put together a comprehensive list. So when we put it, we have the 5-year list, which I think if you were to compare this one to the one last year, there's some things that have probably dropped off, and there's some new things, and that's been made up of a number of factors. One is myself being involved in kind of getting a lay of the land and a feel for what some of these priorities are. Also working with the buildings themselves, so the principals, the head custodians, and also our maintenance guys. So we kind of pull all that information together, and obviously everybody's got their own idea of what should be the top of the list. And ultimately, I'll make the decision on what should stay, what should be deferred. So we try to keep the stuff that we think is most important in year one, and things that maybe we could push off and and don't need right now, push those off to, year 2, year 3. And then some of the stuff that, could be in year 4 and 5 is stuff that would be really not critical and more wish list stuff. But, this list will change year to year because there'll be new priorities that come up. Something that a lot of the school stuff is more aesthetics with painting and carpet and floors and things like that. And I kind of look behind the scenes at the, HVAC and plumbing and building controls, that kind of stuff. So it's a collaborative effort of trying to figure out what, I guess the best bang for our buck. So we don't want to let things slide if they don't have to. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of trying to keep within a budget.
A follow-up, please.
Sure.
So you've only been here for 2 years roughly. So I'll ask this again in about 3 years, okay? But are you finding that you're constantly getting further and further behind in terms of maintenance? So are you finding that getting from reactive to that next one, which was, it wasn't predictive, was it proactive? It was
Proactive, yes.
It was proactive, is going to be really hard for us to achieve?
I don't think so. I mean, it's something that's not going to happen overnight. And I will say, while we're kind of, as I said, we're kind of crawling out of that reactive phase, we're still going to encounter stuff that breaks. And even if we get to these next tiers, there's always going to be that one-off that happens, whether it's, say, a roof leak or a fan that just the motor dies suddenly for no reason. Things like that are going to happen. But really, the maintenance team that we have now, I have a lot of confidence in them. They do a great job. They stay on top of things really more than I've ever seen. I mean, they're really dedicated to their job. One of the things that they do really well is they work as a team. So whether it's 3, 4, or all 5 of them, they really, there's no animosity amongst them. There's no bickering. They work well together. It's like a bunch of friends. So that, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, that helps a lot because, there's none of this infighting of, who's trying to sabotage the other guy or who's not going to do a work order because it's going to, impact the other guy. It's a team effort. And I can't say enough how much it helps because they will identify items and they'll bring them to my attention and we'll, get the respective party, whether it's a service contractor or if we got to call somebody up out of the phone book. So I would say we've tried to curtail a lot of surprises. They're still going to happen, but I think, kind of getting back to your question, I think we'll get there. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen in a year, but as you said, Debbie, if in 2 years, if you ask me that again, I'd like to, hopefully I can confidently say that we've eliminated a lot of the headaches or persistent headaches that keep reoccurring.
Thank you. And great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. Any other board member questions? Yeah, Mr.
Michelle?
Oh, yes, Mr. Voros. And then
Bob,
Mr. Julia.
would you comment on the services provided for landscaping?
Yep. Do you have any specifics for that, Mr. Voros? Just like an overall question?
It's an overall question, but to be very honest with you, we need to be very careful that the front of Sandy Hook, that beautiful garden that was planted, is maintained.
Yep. We've been working with our landscaping vendor I want to say it was this time last year, the town went out to bid for a new landscaping contract, and they did bring on a new vendor. And there was some additions and cutbacks to the services that it didn't impact us. It was more so on the town side of Park and Rec overtaking more of the grass cutting. But no, we have been keeping an eye. So certainly that part of Sandy Hook is very visible, but also they maintain the courtyards at Middlegate and at Reed, and particularly the one at Reed is very, very ornamental. There's a lot of trees, a lot of shrubs, a lot of flowers, a lot of grass. So I think they've done a great job in being able to maintain those and keep them in a good visibility.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. D'Elia?
Bob, how do you come up with an estimate, say, for painting? Say you want a classroom painted. How would you put that into your budget? Because I noticed that all your numbers are round, and I understand that you have to use placeholders to a degree. But I was just wondering how you come up with that, if you could speak to that very briefly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is kind of personal experience. I don't want to give up my secret, but there's a nice website out there that has a lot of data. But like RS Means has information on labor rates. But ultimately, a lot of times we get quotes from contractors, and that serves as good record to reference back on. Because when you look at schools, a lot of the classrooms, whether it's in one school or another, are the same size, and we kind of use the same paint colors, and a gallon of paint is a gallon of paint. So we, a lot of times it's, stuff like that is kind of just crunching some numbers and maybe putting in a little extra just to make sure you're covering all the bases. But yeah, it's a lot of it's just number crunching and kind of using past experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, any other board member questions? Don't see any. I'll just note again the way I did with the technology budget, and you did this as well, Mr. Gerber, but I just wanted to make sure that we're all recognizing that even though the budget book shows the 3.6% increase, the budget is actually down by 0.8% because of the money that was used from the capital non-recurring fund last year to sort of, I don't know, backfill projects so it's really about, this is a budget asking for the money from the taxpayer. It doesn't mean that your budget has increased. It means that the amount that we're asking from the taxpayers is increased, right? And then the other thing, I wanted to thank you for all the time that you're spending with the other boards, with the Sustainable Energy Commission, with Public Building and Site, because I know it's been, it's what benefits us all as a district, as a board, to have your interaction with the other boards, and I know they enjoy having you there and your expertise there, and we benefit, in the ways that Fred Hurley has brought us the net virtual metering, and sustainable energy makes the suggestions that we benefit from. So I appreciate all that work that you put into that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, those boards and those people that operate on those boards, they're all very smart people. They're all very passionate about what they care about and what they do. And ultimately they care a lot about the town and putting their best foot forward. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and please thank all the staff that are working on the facilities. That I know this has been an incredibly challenging year, and we do appreciate all the work that has gone into making it work for our students.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the benefits budget, and Ms. Vadas, are you giving us that piece?
Hi, yes, good evening, I am. But before we get started, I would like to share some sentiments of my own. First of all, I would like to thank and acknowledge the business office team for their dedication, commitment, and the support that they've shown through the many transitions that we faced during this year. This is a department that works tirelessly and seamlessly behind the scenes. As with everyone else, we were faced with significant challenges during unprecedented times. Not only did we experience COVID-related disruptions, but we also implemented a new financial software system coming online in January of 2020. This system presented many challenges of its own and took nearly 2 years to get up and running due to its complexity. Shortly after the pandemic hit and still becoming familiar with this new system, we were faced with significant turnover, losing 50% of our workforce in a small department, each of us wearing 2 to 3 hats at a single moment. Despite these challenges and hurdles, our department still processed over $75 million worth of transactions, again, seamlessly and without complaints. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for your dedication and support. So thank you to the business office team. And I would certainly be remiss if I did not thank the entire Board of Education and Dr. Rodrigue for your full support in my new role as the Director of Business. So thank you very much for that. And I also would like just to take a quick moment to introduce the newest member of our team, Bjorn Burke, who I believe is with us tonight, and he is the new Assistant Director of Business. So a little bit about Bjorn. He joined us in late November, stepping right into the busiest time of year, the budget season. So Bjorn has, comes with a great background. He's worked in a variety of financial and educational settings, and he brings with him a vast knowledge of all of this information. His last position was held at the University of Hartford. But after interviewing several candidates, we knew we made the right choice because he's proven that no matter what's been thrown at him, and it's been a lot lately, he can analyze it, figure it out, and return it in a timely and pleasant manner. He's extremely conscientious and makes a great addition to the business office team. So welcome, Bjorn. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just want to say I'm happy to join the Newtown Public School District, and I look forward to meeting you, the board, in person. You know, it's a challenging time right now, so virtual is okay. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Great, thank you. Welcome, and it's great to have you here. Thank you for staying late tonight with us. It's nice to see you, at least virtually.
Thank you.
Okay. So can you share your screen?
Oh.
Any permissions to share my screen, I should say.
Can you? Yeah, you should be able to, I think.
Okay. I'm not sure that I caught it. Hang on one second. Application window. Okay. I think everybody can see that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll start with employee benefits. Employee benefits are comprised of several components and make up $11,677,953 or 14.4% of our 21-22 budget request. Many of these benefits experience a fixed annual increase, such as our health insurance, pension, and workers' comp. However, these costs will also fluctuate based on employee participation. The majority of this cost center, as you can see, is made up of medical and dental insurance at 73%, and FICA and Medicare, which is an unavoidable salary-driven cost at 14%. Other objects included in this section are employee pensions at 7.45%, workers' comp at 3.82%, life insurance at 0.74%, and all other accounts such as premiums and fees, teacher tuition reimbursement, unemployment, and the Employee Assistance Program make up the balance of just under 1%. Also included in employee benefits and not shown in this chart are the early retirement payouts for certified staff. We will have one more payout in the 21-22 budget for $8,000. So years ago, the town and the Board of Ed decided to implement a self-funded healthcare plan in order to mitigate the high rising insurance costs for both the employee and employer. So I thought it would be interesting to give a brief overview on how this works. When an employer decides to self-insure or self-fund employee benefits, it periodically sets aside money to cover anticipated losses, for example, claims. It may enter into an agreement with a third-party administrator or TPA to handle some of the plan's functions, for example, enrollment, plan documents, and claims. An insurance company may serve as a TPA. In our case, Anthem serves as our plan administrator, but no insurance policy is in effect. Thus, Anthem assumes no financial responsibility for risks under this plan. Under its agreement with the employer, our TPA may adjudicate and pay out on claims, and in doing so, it draws money from a bank account that we have set up. The Board of Ed contributes to this fund in 4 quarterly payments, and some of the factors dictating our costs are the actual amount of claims that were paid, our stop loss premiums, and other administrative service and fees. This fund has been managed with great success, and we've maintained a low level of annual increase, and we're able to keep our employee copays to a minimum. As of the 1920 school year, our Health Savings Account, or HSA, has become the only plan available for all employees. The Board of Education does contribute a portion of the copay to all eligible employees, and the amount varies depending on whether the employee has single, plus one, or family coverage. Deposits are made into the employee's HSA account either once or twice a year, depending on their union contract. And employees can also make contributions to their HSA account through payroll deductions as a tax-deferred benefit. Above, you can see the employee's cost share percentages per union for the upcoming year. In this budget proposal, you will see that we are requesting a 3% increase in health insurance. This insurance is based on the fund requirements, which is managed by the town. FICA and Medicare increase of 2.4%, and this cost is calculated using the 21-22 budgeted salary request. Unemployment has increased by $20,000, and this was added to be more in line with the current and potential future requirements. In 1920, we incurred costs of over $80,000 in this account, and this year we are on track to incur up to $60,000 or $70,000. So by adding $20,000 to our 21-22 budgeted unemployment costs, we will be at $50,000. Over on in the decreases side of the budget, we see a decrease in our pensions as we are anticipating 4.8% less. The driver behind this decrease can be found in our defined benefits plan, which is based on annual reevaluation of actuarial projections, and a decrease of $24,250 in our employee annuities. The defined contribution plan, also part of the pension, will increase by an estimated 2%. Workers' comp has an estimated decrease of $15,000, and this is due to a reduction that came in after the 2021 budget was already approved. So therefore, our current year expenses will be the same as the 21-22 budget. There was a small adjustment in the premium and fees going down by $1,500. And retirement benefits will decrease by $8,000 as this will be the last year for the administrative payout. All other line items remain flat. So the total fringe benefit request is a 2.12% increase, or $242,670, combined with a decrease in the early retirement benefits of $8,000, brings our total budgetary increase to just over 2%, or $234,670. So any questions before I move on in the area of benefits?
I don't see anybody. Does anybody have any questions? No. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop sharing there. So now we'll move on to general support services. Am I still sharing, Michelle, or?
You are not currently, but you can.
Oh, hang on one second. Okay. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
I can't see anybody, so, okay. General support services. We have Apple at our core. The general support services makes up several departments of our cost centers, each overseeing various parts of the entire school district. The superintendent's office oversees all. This position can be considered the CEO of operations and is responsible to maintain and administer all educational and operational functions that affect the district. Also within this cost center are the assistant superintendent and the human resources department. The budget and business services oversees all financial aspects of the district. This includes budget, accounts payable and payroll, benefits, and purchasing. The provision for salary adjustments and regular subs are co-determined by the superintendent and business director, taking contractual obligations and district needs into consideration. Board of Education costs include general liability insurance, CAPE memberships, and other related board expenses. Security services include security staff, training, supplies, and equipment. And cafeteria services include our food service management company and the lunch program. This chart displays the percentage of the total budget request for general services, which is at 3.8%. The requested increase for the superintendent's office is $46,845, or 4.7%. The majority of this increase can be found in administrative salaries, as we see a change for $70,000. This is for the diversity compliance coordinator position that Dr. Rodriguez had previously highlighted in her budget overview presentation. Although this position is budgeted in administrative salaries, it will eventually reside in a more appropriate classification once the position is in place, which is anticipated sometime this year. The small bump in secretarial salaries is contractual increases for our union positions that are held within that account. Staff training has an increase of $5,400, and again, this was mentioned in Dr. Rodriguez's budget presentation to be used towards diversity and multicultural workshops. The decrease in professional services for $30,000 is for a reduction in legal fees, and this is due to only having one union negotiation as compared to having two in the current year. All other accounts show a decrease of $885. The requested increase for the business office is $11,157, or 1.49%. The driver of this increase comes from the salary accounts, as you can see the change in supervisory and clerical salaries. We had a reclassification of the assistant business director, budgeting these salaries to where they belong, and the net overall change equates to $11,578. Professional services contains the Board of Ed portion of the annual audit expense. Next year, this cost will be $26,000, as well as services that are provided for our annual budget book update, school activity accounts, and eFinance Plus. Equipment rental contains the lease agreement for our folding and postage machine. 21-22 will be the second year of a 4-year lease, and the requested budget has been adjusted to reflect the actual payments of this lease. Contracted services contains costs for our document shredding and management print services. Then all other accounts have been adjusted based on actual needs. This category of expenses includes salary adjustments for certified and non-certified staff, savings from turnover and regular subs, and district extra work. The provision for certified salary adjustments shows an increase of $123,000, $320, and this is due to the following. During our budget meetings with principals, there were concerns over elementary enrollment and class size projections. Therefore, one FTE teacher has been included in this request. This account also contains allowance for advanced degrees at $45,000, allowance for individually contracted salary increases for $13,000. And all of this detail can be also found in your budget book on page 155. The savings from turnover has been adjusted to reflect the anticipated offering of an early retirement incentive for our teachers. And the provisions for non-salary adjustments reflects an estimated wage increase for our union and our non-union positions. And just as a side note, I'd like to point out that these accounts typically do zero out as they are considered more or less holding accounts, and these funds will be eventually transferred to the appropriate accounts. But you can see in the savings from turnover for the current year that as of November 30th, when we did make our transfers, the savings from the turnover still had a large balance due to our large budget of $624,000. The regular substitute line includes our sub-caller, university interns, daily subs, and other building subs for teacher coverage and district-wide extra work for vacancies and special projects. This account has been decreased based on anticipated needs going forward. Board of Education expenses contain costs that benefit the district as a whole, such as our general liability insurance, CABE membership, and other costs related to board activities. Contracted services budgeted for next year includes services required for an enrollment study, board meetings, and other consultants for various needs. The general liability insurance coverage is through KERMA and includes a 3% estimated increase. Our insurance coverage includes liability and property, reimbursable deductible, additional insurance for school leaders, an umbrella policy, as well as a policy for crime. Printing services contains items such as forms, contract booklets, and applications for free and reduced lunches. Other supplies contains costs associated with our annual convocation and other items for staff recognition. As mentioned earlier, in memberships, we have budgeted costs for CABE and Ed Advance. Overall, we are anticipating an increase of $12,947 or 6.23%. In food services, we have a budget line for equipment repair. The Board of Ed owns all of its equipment, therefore we have to maintain and repair equipment as needed. Some of these items also require annual tune-ups and services. We feel that $30,000 is a reasonable amount for this line item. The line item for contracted services was added in 1920 as we began to feel some pressure as wage increases and compostable costs began to rise. A decision was made to subsidize our lunch program in the 2021 budget by adding the $10,000. However, due to the pandemic beginning in March of 2020, the Board of Ed had to subsidize a total of $82,355. Unfortunately, we're still feeling the effect of this, and we anticipate costs in the current year to be even greater than that. For next year, we have budgeted an amount that reflects some normalcy, but it's important to be mindful that we will be entering into uncharted waters. Therefore, I have increased this line from $10,000 to $20,000. And there's our food service manager. So the total request for the general support services is $128,782 or 4.36%. So at this time, I'd like to take any questions that you have for the general support services. And I could go back to any screens that you would like to see. I'd like to see that one.
All right, are there any board member? No, not. Yes, Ms. Zukowski. Oh, Ms. Zukowski, you're on mute.
Yeah. You mentioned that the savings from turnover could be accounted for perhaps some early retirement. If there is an early retirement and if there is a subsidy associated with that early retirement, should that be reflected in the benefits early retirements line?
Yeah, good question. So what we do there is we capture everything in the savings for turnover. And once the program has begun and the payouts have started, then that line item is moved into the early retirements. So that's
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Or comments? Nope. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. D'Elia, I'm distracted.
A question for Mr. I don't want to say your name wrong. Pompano?
That's right, Pompano.
I'm saying it right? Do you feel like you're adequately staffed to serve the students and the staff with this budget?
Yes, absolutely. I believe the budget, at least the security component of the budget put forth, is cost effective, fiscally responsible, but does in fact meet our needs for the 21-22 school year.
May I continue?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I remember that you had, you needed us to build a building for you last year. Did that building get built?
Yep, that building was constructed. It was put in. Next time you're at the high school, it's the building right at the main driveways. When you turn in, it came out beautiful. The guys can actually fully stand up inside and do what they need to do. We also last year were able to complete the new welcome desk inside the lobby of the high school. That was done by one of Bob's men, Mark Perizzoli, did a wonderful job on that. And as well, last year we were able to put in new A-phone systems at all the school security desks. So we were in good shape coming into this year. I'd just like you to know that as a board, that the security team this year did not go unscathed as it related to COVID-19. I need to commend the men and women on my team for the dedication and flexibility in changing their work schedule, changing their school locations with little to no advance notice. I also needed to thank Chief Viardero and the Newtown Police Department for backfilling us when we needed an armed presence at our schools during school hours. But I can honestly say that we have a great relationship between the Newtown Board of Ed and the Newtown Police Department. Things there work very well, and I know that's not always the case elsewhere.
Yes, we definitely have a unique relationship in Newtown, and it's good relationship. Glad to know about it. Mr. D'Elia, did you have more?
No, I knew you were going to thank him, and that's enough. Thanks, Mr. Pompano. I appreciate everything you and your team do. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, I'm sensing none. So we'll move on to transportation. Ms. Badas, this is your night for multiple categories, right?
I'm just flipping between screens. I'm really sorry. It's just taking a minute because I do have multiple presentations up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Okay, I think everybody's seeing the transportation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just to give a little overview on our transportation department, our fleet contains 54 buses, 31 are 77 passenger, 13 are 47 passenger, and 2 buses are the type 2 vans. 46 of these units are used for regular transportation, and 8 of the smaller units are used for special education, of which 3 can accommodate wheelchairs. We also transport students to private schools in town, such as St. Rose, Fraser Woods, and Housatonic Valley. Other transports include Henrietta Tech and Magnet School in Danbury, Nonawag and Chippewa VOAG schools in Woodbury and Washington. We also have a number of high school students that attend Center for Arts in Trumbull and ACES located in New Haven. These are part-time studies for students selected to participate in these magnet school programs. In 2021, this will be the final year of our 5-year contract with All-Star, and we will incur a 3% increase. The detail shows you the various objects or accounts that make up the total in-district contract. The reason you're seeing various increases and decreases is also because within these accounts are allowances for additional runs, aids. We also have additional half-time or half-day buses at Henrietta Tech, Danbury Magnet, and the VOAG schools. All of these runs have been accounted for, along with the local portion of the excess cost grant, which is anticipated to be greater than the current year, bringing this total down to a 2.53% increase. As we begun our contract with All-Star in 2012-13, the Board of Ed realized substantial savings, lowering our transportation costs by over 20%. This chart displays the history of our savings. As you can see that after 10 years, we are still experiencing a savings of over 4%. And this chart just shows another view of our savings. And once again, you can see that over the past 10 years, we still have significant savings in our daily rates for the full-size buses. Our out-of-district contract is a 5-year contract with Ed Advance, and 21-22 will mark the 2nd year of this contract. The contractual average increase is 1.96% for this year, and the increase is based on the runs that were bid at the time. For instance, some of the runs have an increase of over 2%, while others have an increase of under 1%. Therefore, the increase will vary depending on the runs that have been budgeted. The overall requested increase here is a 1.36% increase, or $9,465. And again, this amount is based on the various budgeted locations for our anticipated out-of-district placements. This chart shows the level of funding that comes from our excess cost grant. You can see that over the years, it's been consistently over 30%. This number is part of the overall out-of-district special education cost grant with an amount that's allocated to the transportation. For 21-22, we are anticipating that 32.6% of our funding will come from this grant. In 2016-17, the use of propane was becoming very popular in the busing industry as an alternative means to the fossil fuel. Not only propane is environmentally friendly, but it runs quiet, causes less corrosion on the engine parts, and is cost effective, meaning we will use less, and it's not subject to the volatile swings in the market as diesel and gasoline are. In 2017-18, the Board of Ed decided to make the change, and we agreed to a 3-year phase-in for all vehicles. This table reflects the fuel usage for our entire fleet, and here you can see the cost per gallons for each type of fuel along with the gallons used. We currently have 2 spare buses that run on diesel, and the gasoline usage is from our special education transition program. We are currently in our last year of a 2-year contract with HOCON for propane, and the 21-22 budget does reflect an estimated dollar amount. The overall transportation request for 21-22 is an increase of $102,396, or 2.19%. And I would be glad to take any questions at this time.
All right, are there any questions from anybody? Transportation? No questions.
No questions on transportation. Okay. That's unusual, but
Yep, no technology, transportation, all of our usual long discussions have been cut short this evening.
I guess we did a good job budgeting. That's all I can say.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. And I think that's it for the.
Mr. Delia has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Delia.
I'm going to make a comment.
Yeah.
Tanya, I'm sorry, Miss Vadas, I must say, for your first year, you're doing a wonderful job, and I'm very impressed with your presentations. They leave me with very few questions, so
Well,
thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, we typically sit there with a ruler and just go over the numbers, but I thought I would take advantage of being online and, you know, be a little creative.
Yeah, and actually having some, I know a lot of this is in the budget books, but some of these presentations, some of the slides that we've seen tonight are really useful, and I don't know if we can have those as part of the minutes, maybe.
Yeah, they will be.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, the budget book, this is like a thesis that gets written every year, and it always amazes me how much goes into this, and how it's like defending a thesis when you all bring it to us. And so I appreciate all the work that goes into providing all the information that we get through this budget book. And I also appreciate just hearing from the different departments, because it is a chance for us to hear about the accomplishments that have happened over the past year that we don't normally get to during our normal budget or our normal Board of Ed meeting. So I do appreciate all that this brings to us. And with that, I will finish up this part. The budget discussions, of course, on Thursday, it will be a free-for-all, and Board of Ed members can will bring up any remaining questions that board members have on Thursday and continue our discussion of the budget in that way. So we'll end. Yes, Mr. Delia.
If I understand this correctly, Thursday is the day that we can ask any questions that we have about the entire budget.
Yes.
And then when do we make our motions if we want to make motions? That's the following week, correct?
That'll be on Tuesday, February 2nd, I think.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
And on Thursday would be a good time to sort of, if you want to get sort of a feeling from other board members, what they think about topics that you're interested in, that would be a good time to, bring up any issues.
Thank you.
Ms. Zukowski?
Does that mean that it's expected on Tuesday, the 2nd, that we will have no questions, or will we be allowed to have more time over the weekend to give it one last pass through?
So the evening when we do the budget adoption, we generally don't have a whole lot of discussion or questions remaining at that point. It should be fairly well wrapped up. There won't be a lot of time for questions. That's not to say that there might not be something that comes up when, somebody has a question that needs to be answered before they make a motion, but generally the goal is to have everything wrapped up in terms of questions and answers this Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on to our item 8, discussion and possible action on the modification to the school calendar, March 10th. And
Make a motion.
sure.
I move that the Board of Education approve the modification to the school calendar for March 10th as presented.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Delia makes the motion, Mr. Cruson seconds the motion, and I won't ask either of you to speak to your motion, but Dr. Rodriguez, would you like to give us the information about this?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Coos. So March 10th, after much discussion with my leadership team, I would like to propose a minor change to the March 10 calendar. Just so you all know, at the time we developed the calendar, we were still in the midst of finalizing various plans and school schedules, as well as the modes of learning and where we might be at this point in the school year with COVID. So we had scheduled a typical PD on that Wednesday, which would require a 2-hour delayed opening for staff development for our teachers. However, we then moved following that again, and we established the calendar long before this. We then moved to the creation of schedules at both the elementary and secondary levels that included, as you know, an early release on Wednesdays. This would not work, obviously, without changing one or the other. So we have early dismissals in January this month. We have them in February and again throughout the year. Both of the January and February are 3-hour early dismissals for staff development. We also have a full day in April. So we feel removing the staff development on that day is reasonable, and just keeping it a regular early release would be appropriate. I did get a chance to speak with the union president, just so he knew this was our intention, and I think this makes sense.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the proposed change? So the proposed change is it?
Well, we can't have both. So the proposed change is not to have the delayed opening for staff development, and to just keep it as a typical Wednesday, which continues the momentum and it's easy for everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Cruson.
It's my understanding now that we're all in that the high school technically is even on Wednesdays is a full day. It's the same schedule Monday through Friday for the high school and the middle school. Is that correct?
Yes. So they have a full schedule with the time built in for travel each day for early dismissal, and then they take a class virtually.
So this proposed change indicates that we will be continuing to have K-6 on a early release schedule on Wednesdays through March.
Yes, and the reason for that is equitability, because when you look at, we put a lot of effort and time into making sure that teachers had the same amount of prep time and time that is needed as part of their preparation for their classes, and for both remote and in person. And when we looked at it, because of the time period because of the schedule for high school, we needed to make it equitable for elementary as well. Thus, we continued with the giving the time for Wednesdays for elementary. It's not exactly the same. I think secondary still gets some minutes more than they do, but it's pretty close. So it was a good compromise.
Okay.
And they are still working with both remote learners. That's not going to change, and in class. So they do need the time.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand how it is equitable when one group is teaching what is essentially a full day while the other is teaching a half day, but I don't know if I'm missing some math in there.
Yeah, well, we can show you the math because we've done it. You have to understand that what's happening during school for secondary is very different than what's happening during school for elementary. It's just in the scheduling and the minutes. So when we look at the travel time and going home, there are some additional minutes that secondary gets just out of the scheduling of it, that we wanted to make all schedules equitable. They don't look the same, but the minutes and hours are equitable in terms of preparation time for teachers.
There's
So
an-
these are extra minutes that the secondary teachers are getting that they would not have gotten in a normal, if the
Yes.
kids weren't going home
Exactly,
with the free periods they would normally have.
exactly.
There's an approximately a 45-minute additional period, non-teaching period per day
Right.
for 7 through 12 teachers that is included in that full day. So if you multiply that 45 minutes times 5, it comes out to a little more than 3 hours of additional prep time.
Okay.
Okay. Was that? All right. So are there questions about the proposed change on March 10th?
I just have a follow-up to Dan's line of questioning.
Well, so does this have anything to do with the March 10th date, or are we?
My questions did have relevance to my thought process behind the decision as to whether I agreed with or disagreed with making the change. So it was relevant, at least to my thought process.
Okay. And Mr. Delia, did you need more
I
information?
just want to make sure I understand. So you're saying the 5 days worth of 45 minutes equals a half day for the other schools. That's how it's equitable. Anne, am I understanding that right?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, sensing none, we can vote on this. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None, so that passes unanimously. And that brings us to our public participation. And I will open up the floor for public participation. If anybody on the phone wants to unmute using *6, you may do so and address the board at this time. And I'm sensing none, so we will close out public participation and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There we go. Mr. Boros makes a motion. Mr. Cruson seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Hey, have a good night.